The National Desk, America's News Now.
This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Dee Gatton. It's great to be here with you. On this weekend edition, we take a look at the big headlines of the week and a look ahead at what to expect, starting with the 4 big stories we've been following all week. First, Southwest Airlines back to normal operations after their massive meltdown. How the government could hold the company responsible. And what will inflation look like in 2023? The latest forecast of what's going to get cheaper and what's not. Plus, border states face uncertainty as the Supreme Court weighs Title 42. The action some towns are taking in anticipation of a possible migrant surge. Then, new questions emerge about White House COVID policy management as a recent batch of Twitter files alleges messaging manipulation. But we begin with new details in the killings of 4 University of Idaho students. Police have arrested Brian Kohberger on an active warrant for murder in connection with the case in Moscow, Idaho. Investigators saying they took the 28-year-old Washington State University grad student into custody in eastern Pennsylvania Friday. On November 13th, the bodies of 4 students were found in an off-campus home. They're identified as Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Kernodle's boyfriend, Ethan Chapin. Investigators say they had been stabbed and were likely asleep at the time of the attacks. The killing shocking the small college town, its first murder in 7 years. We are told that the suspect is due back in court on Tuesday in Pennsylvania. We will continue to stay on top of this story and bring you any new updates as soon as they come in. Now to Southwest Airlines recovering from its massive meltdown. The airline canceled an additional 2,500 flights on Wednesday on top of more than 2,300 that had already been canceled through Thursday, bringing the total cancellations since last week to nearly 16,000. The company has since returned to normal operations, blaming an Arctic blast over the Christmas weekend for causing delays and cancellation chaos. The winter weather also buried Buffalo, New York under more than 4 feet of snow. You can see the snow plows there. City officials report at least 40 people died. Crews there are still on the ground searching for any more people who may have died or are stuck. But for some, things are beginning to return to normal. A driving ban was lifted after 6 days, and City Hall, grocery stores, and other key services have started to reopen. This year, Americans were up against the highest inflation in 4 decades. 2022's final inflation report showing prices were up 7.1% year over year in November. In the new year, will household budgets finally get a break? The National Desk Atra El-Nashar cuts through the mixed messaging about the prices you can expect.
2022 was a year of pain at the pump. December ending with gas prices dipping to a national average of $3.08, according to Gas Buddy, just out with its 2023 fuel outlook, predicting the average gas price will dip to $2.99 in February before rising by $1 in June and ending the year at $3.49.
When that stuff happens, I definitely gotta really start budgeting my money, cooking at home, stuff like that.
Grocery prices in 2023 are a mixed bag. According to the USDA, overall, they're expected to rise between 3 and 4% after already spiking 11 to 12% this year. Specifically, USDA predicts dairy and egg prices will rise between 4 and 5%. Poultry also expected to rise by that much in the new year, as a strain of avian flu has affected almost 58 million birds, according to the CDC. One area Americans are expected to see prices come down is housing. Demand dropping as rising interest rates push buyers out of the market.
Purchase activity is down about 40% relative to where we were this time in 2021, and refinancing is down over 80% compared to last year.
For renters, the Federal Reserve anticipates some relief coming by the middle of 2023 as demand for new leases also cools down. But just like a drop in home prices, lower rent will look more like a return to normal trend after skyrocketing throughout the pandemic. A trend expected to carry into the new year is the decline in used car prices, which have already fallen 5 months in a row. JP Morgan predicts 2023 will see used car prices drop 10 to 20%, but only a 2.5 to 5% drop for new cars as the effects of the chip shortage linger. Costs across the board will hinge on what kind of slowdown comes from the Fed's interest rate hikes. Goldman Sachs telling investors this week it expects the U.S. will avoid a recession next year.
Our expectation, our baseline is that the economy continues to grow and the adjustment process in the labor market continues, but without a recession.
The firm acknowledges they're outside the general consensus that a recession next year is the most likely outcome, what some describe as necessary pain to bring down prices. In Washington, I'm Atrell Nashar for the National Desk, America's News Now.
And coming up in 15 minutes, ZipRecruiter's lead economist joining us what job seekers can expect in the new year still ahead. A new border barrier is up in El Paso, Texas. Our station KFOX documenting these shipping containers placed along the U.S.-Mexico border. Arizona recently agreed to remove similar containers after the Biden administration sued, saying they were illegally placed on federal land. Drone videos showing the construction of a massive migrant processing center here. This new facility will be able to process about 1,000 more migrants at the border than usual.
We've had as many as 2,500 crossings a day, and that's will continue. And this is while Title 42 is still in place.
And border towns like El Paso have been overwhelmed in recent months. You can see people in sleeping bags, as you just heard, officials bracing for an even larger surge if Title 42 expires, recently transforming 2 vacant schools into temporary housing. The Supreme Court has decided to keep that public health policy in place for now until a final ruling can be made. Border towns are struggling to manage an unprecedented number of migrants coming to the United States. The National Desk Christine Frizzao shows us what those seeking asylum are facing.
They are snapshots of desperation. Migrants from around the globe after long journeys to get here, sleeping on the streets in frigid temperatures. CBP agents telling lawmakers they are undermanned and overwhelmed.
They feel helpless because there are so many people coming across the border. They know that we're picking up these people and we're just going to release them into the United States, maybe never to be seen again.
Questions about what happens next depend in part on the fate of Title 42, the policy that allows officials to immediately turn away migrants before allowing them to file a claim for asylum. A policy set to end last week, but that deadline extended following action by the U.S. Supreme Court. The Texas National Guard has stepped in, adding additional fencing, as border officials also erect tents like this in preparation for the tens of thousands of people per day experts say DHS is not equipped to handle.
They need to process them. They need to do background checks on them, public health screening, get their fingerprints, make sure they're not wanted criminals, and then serve them with the legal paperwork to initiate their case.
The challenge is magnified by the sheer numbers of migrants who have already come. More than 233,000 encounters at the southern border in November, a slight increase from last month, but with one major difference. The vast majority now coming from Cuba and Nicaragua, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection. While the Biden administration has undone several policies enacted under former President Trump, any major changes to U.S. immigration policy will still have to come from Congress. Their changes, polls show the majority of Americans are calling for.
And Americans demand and deserve, and we all need border security. But to get there, we need to sit down and do the hard work of fixing a broken and badly outdated system.
A system now strained more than ever. I'm Christine Frizzao reporting for the National Desk, America's News Now.
And the White House issuing a statement affirming it will comply with the order, though not wavering on what the Biden administration seeks, saying, quote, Title 42 is a public health measure, not an immigration enforcement measure, and it should not be extended indefinitely. To truly fix our broken immigration system, we need Congress to pass comprehensive immigration reform. The stage is set for what could be a brutal, possibly years-long battle between Republican lawmakers and President Biden as the 117th Congress comes to a close and the GOP is anxious to take control of the House. Chief political correspondent Scott Thuman giving us a preview of the political clash.
I'm not for a blank check for anything. This is hardworking taxpayer money.
He's currently the House Minority Leader, but Congressman Kevin McCarthy, soon to be part of the majority, is sending a warning to Democrats that the 118th Congress will be very different. One of the GOP's top targets, Ukraine aid.
Whenever we give aid, we ought to look at where that aid is going and that it's being used for the right reasons.
So far, the U.S. has spent roughly $68 billion to counter Russia's attacks and bolster Ukraine. While there has been broad GOP support, they've also made it clear they want more oversight.
We need to find out where all this money's going before we take the next step for more money.
Republicans, ready to challenge President Biden in multiple ways, also complain of excessive spending, which they say contributes to inflation. Since last year, Congress has spent trillions on legislation, the American Rescue Plan, infrastructure, and the Jobs Act. Democrats insist that's helped both red and blue states.
I actually think Republican governors can be quite persuasive because they have benefited from this aid, and so they can go to the Republican members in their state or Republican leadership and tell them how important it is.
Also under the GOP microscope, the southern border. U.S. Customs and Border Protection reported a record high 2.3 million migrant encounters or apprehensions in fiscal year 2022, shattering 2021's record.
Those responsible for this disaster will be held accountable.
Some now demanding DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas resign or threaten to investigate what they call impeachable offenses. So a long list of priorities for Republicans starting January 3rd. But remember, Democrats still control the House and obviously the White House. So this wish list in some cases may remain just that. In Washington, Scott Thuman for the National Desk.
All right, Scott, thank you. Frustrated Southwest Airlines customers want accountability following the mass cancellation of flights over the holidays. The fact-check team exploring how the government could hold the company responsible.
After canceling nearly 16,000 flights in just the past few days, Southwest Airlines CEO Bob Jordan now admits a system upgrade is overdue. I'm back with the fact-check team tonight. The Transportation Department has been pressing airlines to do better after the many delays and cancellations travelers experienced back in the summer. Now, fast forward to today, and we have this Southwest flight fiasco. Courtney, what's the latest on the DOT's response to all this?
The agency said in a tweet that it will look into whether these cancellations were controllable, and it expects Southwest to comply with its customer service plan and pay for things like hotels, ground travel expenses, meals, and refunds. Now, under DOT rules, canceled flights must be promptly rebooked or refunded, but airlines are not required to provide the same for delayed flights unless the agency considers it significant.
Yeah, now, we know Secretary Buttigieg spoke with Southwest's CEO yesterday, but Connor, what authority really does the DOT have to help correct these issues and make things better?
Airlines are largely deregulated, so there's really not a ton that the agency can do to enforce these rules. However, the department does have authority to hand out fines. Take a look at this. In November, the DOT collectively fined 6 airlines more than $600 million. And that money went to people who were owed a refund for a canceled or a significantly changed flight. It also fined those same airlines over $7 million in civil penalties for delays in providing those refunds, which is what Secretary Buttigieg could do if he finds Southwest doesn't ramp up their customer service.
Lots of people really upset about this, so the pressure is definitely on. Ladies, thank you so much. And do some more research on your own on this fact-check team topic. You can find the links to the fact-check team sources of information by scanning that QR code on your screen or visit us at thenationaldesk.com.
Coming up here on the National Desk, changing the recipe, how inflation is impacting some pet food and why owners should not be alarmed. And stealing Christmas, the unusual suspect caught taking gifts. The National Desk team of reporters is bringing you the headlines from coast to coast. We're taking the pulse of America, starting in Maryland, where Baltimore residents say they caught Santa stealing packages off of their porches.
Me and my neighbors were looking out for each other for the packages. Let's see if I can get it.
So on the day before Christmas, hopes were high.
It's kind of funny, actually.
When Santa came straight out of the sky.
I got a alert from my porch camera that, somebody was at my door, and I knew I was getting a package, so I looked at my phone and I saw that there was Santa Claus on my front porch.
She didn't have a package when she came home, looked at her cameras, and there was Santa. Hey, let's see. There he is.
Porch cameras captured his early arrival as villagers who had waited for cheer
So I called the police to see, okay, this guy's dressed like Santa.
could only watch in fear. Heaven's sake, they yelled.
He was heading north, so I told the police.
Santa is on the tape.
I had treated myself to some stuff, and I wanted to try to get it back.
Many homes lost packages to a man dressed in red.
It looked like he had a bag full of other things.
In this village, the boxes may be gone, but a holiday lesson will never be lost.
Probably not the best idea.
Every man in red
I thought it was really funny.
doesn't always come armed.
I think they got him within 15 minutes and returned my package.
With a sleigh of street cred.
I'm not super mad about it.
Glad she got her packages back. Now over to Utah. A woman recovering in the hospital after getting into a near deadly sledding accident in Rock Canyon Park about an hour south of Salt Lake City. Kylie Young was sledding with friends when she slammed into a metal pole, broke 21 ribs, her collarbone, fractured her skull, and suffered brain bleeding.
I really feel like God just decided that it wasn't my time yet. It would have been so easy for me to just die, but I didn't, so it's really weird to think about.
Young now slowly relearning how to walk. Her rehab is expected to take a full year. In D.C., the Pet Food Institute saying inflation shortages and supply chain issues are hitting the pet food industry hard. Dana Brooks, the organization's president and CEO, says some companies have changed the ingredients in their pet products as a result. But Brooks says pet owners shouldn't be alarmed as recipe changes are highly regulated.
We can't just substitute ingredients, and we have to have pet food approved in almost every single state that it's sold in.
Experts say while the food is safe for your pet to eat, they may not like the changes. If you see any change in your pet's eating habits, speak to your vet, contact the food manufacturer to ask about any changes as well. Up next on the National Desk, job market madness. We're talking to an expert about what to expect in 2023 if you're looking for work. Your New Year's resolution may be finding a new job. This week, the National Desk Eugene Ramirez spoke with ZipRecruiter's lead economist about what to expect in the job market in 2023.
I want to start right there. Just your overall expectations for the job market in the new year. We keep hearing warnings of a possible recession, but corporate profits are soaring. So what does this all mean for hiring?
You're absolutely right, Eugene. So for 2023, we are expecting a slowdown in hiring, but definitely not a recession. All the indicators that we look at are pointing towards a soft landing that the Federal Reserve has been orchestrating for, not a recession. So as you mentioned, corporate profits are soaring. Starting from the second quarter of 2022, the corporate profits are climbing very steeply. It's at record high levels right now. Same with consumer spending. The personal consumption levels remain very strong despite the high inflation rate. And the third one is the labor market. It's very strong. It has been proven very resilient despite the high rates of interest for the last 9 months. So the companies will proceed with their hiring plans, but not as high as it used to be in 2022.
Sure. Now, if a recession is unavoidable, how can job seekers avoid being laid off shortly after landing that job? Are there recession-proof positions that people should be considering?
Well, yes, in terms of the industries, healthcare is one of the industries that is recession-proof. We went through a pandemic, the demand for healthcare services surged. We are facing an aging population, an increased number of chronic diseases. So even in the future, regardless of the economic cycle, there will be a big demand for the healthcare services. Healthcare services never lost jobs, not even during the 2020 Great Recession. Yeah. Apart from the healthcare, what job seekers are doing is, even after they land a job, they keep looking for another job. Majority of job seekers at our survey said they are still going for the job hunt and looking for a backup job when they, land a new job.
I'm sure employers don't like hearing that. Let's talk about another industry here, the tech industry. Many young people like to get into tech, want to get into tech, but as we all know, they've seen many layoffs in recent months. I found this interesting. A ZipRecruiter survey found almost 80% of those workers that got laid off landed a new job just 3 months after starting their job search. Is one tech company's loss the other tech company's gain, or are these people switching careers?
Well, when we look at the overall job market, not specifically in tech, 55% of people who got their jobs within the last 6 months switched their occupation or industry. So there are a lot of opportunities across all industries. The companies are not looking for industry-specific experience anymore because of the labor shortages. Within tech, when we look at the people who laid off within tech, 74% of them found a new job in tech, but 26% got a job elsewhere. 6% of them went to financial services, mostly in fintech. 4% went to online retail, e-commerce jobs. The rest went to healthcare and even government jobs, which are proven to be, recession-proof.
And quickly here, we're tight on time, but let's talk about salary expectations. Right now, they're at a record high, $74,000, but the average offer was $61,000. What should job seekers expect? Are companies going to be more likely or less likely to meet those expectations?
Well, wage growth hit record highs in 2022, and it will be the situation in 2023 as well. So the slowdown in wage growth will not be pleasing employers. And because of two main reasons. First, pay transparency laws. It started in New York. California will be joining the pact. More and more states are requiring the employers to be transparent with the pay range in their job posting. So that's one reason we are likely to see an upward adjustment in the wages. And the second is the labor shortages.
And keep in mind all the benefits, the work from home, all that stuff adds up as well. Sanam Bubair, thanks so much. Great insight.
Thank you.
Starbucks making changes to its popular rewards program. Why that free coffee is about to cost you more. Taking a look at the top trending stories on our website right now, McDonald's testing a new mostly automated restaurant. That location is in Fort Worth, Texas. Machines do nearly everything, from taking orders to delivering food. And Bill Cosby, the disgraced 85-year-old comedian, says he's planning a comedy tour in 2023. Cosby spent nearly 3 years in prison after he was convicted of drugging and sexually assaulting a woman in 2004. The Supreme Court later overturned the conviction because of an agreement with a previous prosecutor. Cosby faces a new lawsuit from 5 women alleging he drugged them before assaulting them. Those stories and much more available right now at thenationaldesk.com. Looking ahead to stories making headlines this week, Frank James, the man accused of shooting 10 and injuring dozens more after firing shots on a Brooklyn subway in April, is expected to plead guilty to terrorism charges. He's due back in court Tuesday. Disgraced FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried also expected in court Tuesday. He's expected to enter a plea at his hearing. And next Friday will mark the 2nd anniversary of the January 6th insurrection. The House Select Committee recently releasing its final report and has recommended barring former President Donald Trump from holding office again. Ahead on the National Desk, testing travelers who will be required to show a negative COVID-19 test before entering the U.S. You're watching the National Desk, America's News Now. You can catch us live weekdays from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time, and anytime online at thenationaldesk.com. We'll be right back.
The National Desk, America's News Now.
This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Didi Gatton. The Biden administration renewing COVID restrictions for travelers from China as cases surge. Starting January 5th, people traveling to the U.S. from China will again be required to show a negative test result before entering the country. Critics say the move is a contradiction, claiming then candidate Joe Biden called the Trump administration's 2020 China travel ban xenophobic. But the Biden campaign at the time said he was referring to Trump's past actions, not the travel ban. We're hearing from an epidemiologist who says his Twitter account was slapped with serious restrictions after he says one of his tweets was inaccurately labeled as misleading. It's part of a recently revealed move from the White House when it encouraged the social media app to censor some content about COVID. The National Desk, Kayla Gaskins reports.
The White House and COVID management at the center of another batch of Twitter's internal company documents. They show there was pressure from the White House on Twitter to control dissenting viewpoints on the pandemic. Journalist David Zweig releasing the latest revelations, saying the United States government pressured Twitter and other social media platforms to elevate certain content and suppress other content about COVID-19.
This sheds a dramatic light on things that perhaps we suspected were going on, but now we know were going on.
According to Zweig, attempts to control pandemic-related online content began with the Trump White House attempting to mitigate pandemic buying. The pressure continuing when Biden took office, focus shifting to suppressing anti-vaxxers.
These were political issues that they were intervening on, and they were preventing the debate from taking place on the single most influential platform for political discussion, which is Twitter.
Harvard Medical School epidemiologist Dr. Martin Kulldorff among those impacted. Kulldorff tweeting, quote, thinking everyone must be vaccinated is as scientifically flawed as thinking nobody should. COVID vaccines are important for older high-risk people. Those with prior natural infection do not need it. Twitter labeling the tweet misleading, shutting off Kuldorf's likes and comments.
The media is supposed to be a check on government. It's supposed to expose government, not be a tool of government.
The latest release follows previous revelations from Twitter showing the FBI pressuring the company to censor certain users.
We can address information, we can compare sources, and we can make our own judgments without big tech overlords trying to make that call for us.
A new Congress will be sworn in next week. With Republicans taking control of the House, they promise a full investigation into big tech's relationship with Washington. I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Kayla, thank you. Masks are making a comeback, and not just because of COVID, but also to fight the flu and RSV. The National Desk Angelo Brown speaks with a professor of political science at Suffolk Community College about the impact of mask mandates on education.
But you have a handful of schools are reinstating mask mandates. You have a couple of schools in New Jersey, Philly, mainly targeting the triple-demic. You have the State University, SUNY, New York, Purchase, requiring masking indoors. Now, we're looking at a handful of schools, K through 12, and universities, but you're concerned this could kind of spread, making this a bigger issue. Is that your concern at this point?
It is my concern. I mean, I come at this from the perspective of a parent, a teacher, a political scientist, and someone that worked in emergency management and worked on pandemic plans. The idea of universal masking was always a fraud. It was never going to work, and it's for several reasons that we have this problem. First of all, students don't wear the mask right, and it inhibits the learning environment in the classroom. So I wrote a piece for Campus Reform detailing how the classroom was lifeless when students had the mask on. The second the mandate was lifted, my students began participating, they began talking to each other again. We started to see more activity on the campus. So the idea of putting masks on students again doesn't make any sense, especially we know most people wear cloth masks or surgical masks, and those masks are ineffective. The only mask that provides some protection is the N95s, and that's not what people are wearing.
Well, you know, the NIH, they did come out with a statement, I think it was in May, the National Institutes of Health saying schools with mandatory masking at least during the Delta surge, they said had less in-school transmission from COVID than schools that had the optional or partial masking. So you have some of these school districts, there's a statement right there, they're kind of relying on information like that in order to make these policies now that they're facing this triple threat that we're seeing.
And this has been the problem with the NIH and the CDC throughout the coronavirus pandemic. So when we look at what they're referring to, they're not taking into account schools that took other measures. You know, wash your hands, stay home if you're sick, not letting students back after 24 hours of being fever-free. You know, the separation, distancing 6 feet apart. So there are a number of factors. So they can't really point to masks and say, well, masks were the things that did it. And these schools that are issuing the mask mandates, again, it's not happening anywhere else in our society. So in school, you're going to have to wear a mask. But when you go to a shopping mall or a grocery store, well, then you don't have to wear a mask, even though you're surrounded by people. It's illogical.
Well,
Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing, Nicholas. I mean, masking is one thing. Actually closing the schools are another thing. And we're seeing, you know, so much, which is that's not on the table, but we are seeing some of the results of some of these lockdowns, especially when you look at the nation's report card. And some of these, the results coming in are really, truly alarming. You have, in 2022, reading and math scores of students aged 9 declined by something like 5 points and 7 points. You have, you know, the Secretary Miguel Cardona, Education Secretary, saying that he's going to address this problem in a recent interview. Here's what he had to say.
To raise the bar for our students, to provide them more opportunities. That means having highly qualified teachers in every classroom for every student, providing more opportunities after school.
So what do you think? I mean, we spend the first portion of this talking about masking, but students are facing a problem in the classroom, something called learning loss, and a lot of our students are very far behind. You heard what the Secretary said was one avenue to kind of close this gap. What do you think is a real solution here?
Well, proficiency levels dropped to their 30-year lows, and that's truly frightening. The lockdowns increased the academic achievement gap, and every school, even schools that returned fairly quickly, still lost some proficiency levels, and a lot of it has to do with the mandates. What we need is stronger curriculums. What we need is to start holding students back. What should have been declared a lost year. Instead, students were cycled through without learning the material. And as they fall further and further behind, they're continuing to get cycled through. So I think the main thing, I agree that we need qualified teachers in the classroom that understand what education is. I agree with the idea that we need to have after-school programs to help students catch up. But I also think that we need to expand the school year for a little bit.
And tennis superstar Novak Djokovic back in Australia nearly a year after he was deported over COVID-19 restrictions. The 21-time Grand Slam champion will open his 2023 tennis season this week in Adelaide. He was deported from Australia in January 2022 because he refused to get vaccinated against COVID-19. Drug manufacturer Lupin Pharmaceuticals recalling some of its blood pressure medication, Quinapril, due to elevated levels of nitrosamine impurity, which can increase the risk of cancer if people are exposed to them at a high level. The affected medicine was distributed between March 2021 and September 2022. The FDA is fast-tracking the review of a new opioid overdose reversal drug that could become available over the counter. It's called Revive, a naloxone nasal spray made by Harm Reduction Therapeutics. It can reverse the effects of a suspected opioid overdose. The FDA expected to decide whether or not to approve it by the end of April. Drug makers celebrating the accelerated review as opioids are the main driver of overdose deaths in the U.S. Credit cards may not be so generous with their perks in the new year. In 2022, more Americans than ever applied for credit cards. Experts now projecting balances will balloon to more than $900 billion by the year's end, in part due to higher prices and higher interest rates. As a result, experts predict card companies will roll back generous incentives. This is the season where Americans dig deeper into their pockets. Our fact-check team breaks down how many are handling holiday spending.
The holidays can be an expensive time of year, and many shoppers have leaned on credit cards for those purchases. Back with the Fact Check team tonight. Janae, is this the case again this year?
Well, Eugene, not necessarily. So Americans were being extra cautious about how they paid for their holiday shopping this year, trying to avoid going into too much debt. Now, we looked at a Forbes survey that found less than half are using credit cards, but a third of shoppers that do use credit cards plan to pay off their balances in full once the holidays are over.
Now, I remember, and you might as well, the Christmas Club accounts at the bank and the layaway programs that, the Kmart, those kind of stores. How are people paying for their holiday purchases now?
Well, there's a lot of different reports out there, but that same Forbes survey found that just over 3/4 of shoppers plan to use debit cards or cash. 20% gift cards and 10% using buy now, pay later plans.
Yeah, those plans are the modern version of the layaway that I was talking about. Courtney, what's driving all of this?
So during the pandemic, Americans were able to pay off credit card debt and build up savings thanks to those COVID stimulus checks. So credit card balances dropped by $120 billion to $770 billion from the first quarter of 2020 to the first quarter of 2021. But in the most recent quarter, credit card balances are up 15% at $930 billion, which is the largest increase in 20 years. And as the Fed continues to hike interest rates to cool inflation, paying off that credit card debt will continue to be more expensive.
Sure, that's absolutely right, ladies. Thank you. And find more on this Fact Check team topic, including links to their sources on our website, thenationaldesk.com.
Coming up here on the National Desk, dental dilemma. Why some dentists are struggling to schedule patients. And called into question, the investigations into a congressman-elect after he's caught exaggerating about his past. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. Our team of nearly 4,000 local journalists are bringing you the headlines from coast to coast. We're taking the pulse of America, starting with a leaky pipe that ruined some people's Christmas in Tennessee.
And this is absurd when this is like where I need to live. Water pouring from the ceiling, flooded floors and carpet, and caved-in ceilings, all caused by a busted sprinkler pipe. Jordan Moses says he walked into his apartment on Christmas Eve only to find a nightmare.
So my room is completely underwater, like water pooling up over my ankles, just mattress completely saturated.
While Moses lives on the bottom floor, we spoke with a resident who lives above him, who has major damage, leaving a giant gaping hole in his ceiling.
That heard that thing fall, and it was like basically fell on the door. So I had to basically like duck underneath the sheetrock because it was covering the entrance.
Take a look at these videos. Water coming from the ceiling and flooded floors. He did a large majority of the cleanup himself, but now has another issue that has come up.
Yeah, we haven't had water.
So not only are these residents' apartments flooded and damaged with water, but now they don't even have access to water.
They have communicated nothing to us. Even now, 2 days after the fact.
The early morning peace at Heirloom Rustic Ales was shattered as a man burst through the now-broken window and ransacked the bar for the register. The same man took the empty cash drawer at Nothing's Left Brewing Company. Yes, manager Abby Emmert says, nothing's left.
I know. It's a good running joke right now.
At Kalaka Fresh Mex, he was in and out in 20 seconds. He runs up to the window, hurls a heavy object through it, breaks the rest of the glass with his hands, climbs through, nearly slips on the debris, goes straight for the cash register, does not find anything in it. He rifles for the contents underneath, does not find anything, cannot find another cash register. So he goes back to the well a second time, does not find anything underneath the tray, and he is right back out from where he came.
It's a white male, and he wears the same thing every time. He drives the same car every time, and he's been hitting a lot of businesses up and down Tulsa.
He's suspected to have hit 7 businesses in the last 2 weeks. These businesses have been doing a little detective work of their own.
They're sending us their surveillance, and we're matching it up, and we're seeing that it is the same person.
Big Baby Rolls was victimized almost 2 weeks ago. These small businesses are coming together to show that glass can break, but their resolve is unbreakable.
They always do. Anytime something goes down anywhere in Tulsa, everyone comes together and tries to support that business, and it's really good to see. It's awesome.
We are at a desperate crisis for dental help in the dental industry.
Dr. Michael Verber has been a dentist for 20 years, but his office, like others, is struggling to schedule patients.
We are overburdened. We need the help.
The issue is a shortage of extended function dental assistants.
It's really affecting access to care.
He believes it stems from an education shortage across the region.
When you look at our area compared to other areas of similar size or similar communities, there are a lot more educational institutions that are providing dental education.
The employment of dental hygienists is projected to grow 9% between 2021 and 2031, but there will be over 16,000 openings in the occupation each year over the decade, many of them coming as a result of high turnover rates and retirees.
Having these roles, it just reduces the burden on dentists so they can focus on their expertise.
When offices don't fill these roles, patients are left with long wait times.
With dentistry, prevention is critical. When we're not getting patients in early for preventative cleanings and small fillings, what we're seeing is a loss of teeth, more expensive problems.
And still to come, COVID cash for schools. We break down where exactly some of that money went. New York Congressman-elect George Santos is under 2 criminal investigations for lying about his background. Federal and local prosecutors are looking into the embellishments the Long Island Republican made to his resume. Santos has admitted to lying about graduating college and working for finance groups Citigroup and Goldman Sachs. Ever wonder how schools are using the nearly $200 billion Congress sent them during the pandemic? Well, we followed all that money to find out. Here's Spotlight on America's Mitch Blocker for the National Desk.
Alina King just wants her school's heat to work.
I can't sit there for over an hour freezing and be expected to focus and do all my work.
She wants a teacher in every classroom.
I was put in a class. I show up first day, there's no teacher.
The $190 billion Congress sent American schools was supposed to fix problems like these. The Department of Education told schools to use the money to safely reopen schools, maintain safe in-person operations, advance educational equity, and build capacity. So has that been done? The truth is, no one really knows. Earlier this fall, the U.S. Department of Education released its most detailed account of how American schools are spending all that COVID money. It shows schools did hire teachers, they bought computers, they sanitized school buildings. But there is a big blind spot. Right now, the U.S. Department of Education is only showing us what schools did with $24 billion. But Congress sent them $190 billion. So where did all that money go?
There's no question that people have taken advantage of the emergency.
Virginia Congressman Bobby Scott is in charge of overseeing the pandemic money going to schools.
Do you feel like the oversight from the federal government about how all this federal money is spent is adequate, sufficient?
Well, it's hard to do a lot of oversight until you've gotten the reports.
He told us he's still waiting for reports from more than 14,000 individual school districts nationwide. Department of Education records show so far only schools in Montana and Illinois reported their spending past 2020. It's not the first time Congress has run into this kind of challenge. In 2009, the Fed sent $100 billion to schools during the Great Recession. Accounting for that money got so messy, the Department of Education's Inspector General back then said the next time schools get billions in aid, they'll need timely guidance, independent monitoring and oversight for how the money is being spent as it's spent.
Have the problems from 2009 been fixed?
We're going to find out. The reporting is just coming in. As I said, the reports first go to the states and then from the states to the federal government. So we'll see if they've been fixed or not, but we will be providing that oversight to find out.
In some of the only public accountability we've seen so far, Congressman Scott has called out schools in Wisconsin, Iowa, and Kentucky for spending pandemic money on a new football field, weight room renovations, and 2 outdoor tracks. It's what happens, he told us, when money gets pushed out in the midst of a crisis.
In an emergency, you have a choice. Get the money out quickly or get it out carefully. The problem with carefully is that by the time they get it, the crisis is over.
For Alina King, the crisis in her classroom continues.
It just makes me wonder what they're planning on using it for.
She wants to see that COVID relief money make a difference in her school. In Washington, I'm Mitch Blocker for Spotlight on America.
Coming up on the National Desk, TikTok Classroom concerns some schools are promoting using the app for school assignments. In recent weeks, the FBI has raised national security concerns about TikTok. Now some parents say it's gotta go in schools. Here's the National Desk's Angelo Brown.
The dominoes are starting to fall for TikTok, getting banned on state and federal devices. Some parents say schools should be next.
We as parents should not be using it. We have a ban on it in our household. And so my family will not be using it. And again, if my children are assigned it as a homework assignment, I'm going to tell them take the 0.
The latest domino to fall is tucked away in the $1.7 trillion spending bill banning TikTok on government devices. Senator Mark Warren laying out concerns.
They are capturing literally down to the way that you use your keyboard. They are capturing your, in many cases, facial recognition.
Action from Congress coming months following a warning from the FBI to lawmakers that TikTok
poses national security concerns. TikTok owned by Chinese company ByteDance. Here's FBI Director Chris Wray discussing pitfalls at the University of Michigan.
They also have the ability to collect data through it on users, which can be used for traditional espionage operations, for example.
The website Government Technology is reporting 21 states taking action against TikTok since 2020. At the same time, parents defending education highlighting at least 15 schools, school districts, and education departments across the country that have promoted TikTok in school assignments or competition.
One concern for a lot of parents is this where children should be? I think a lot of parents have a lot of concerns about what comes up in their children's algorithm.
This summer, BuzzFeed reporting some U.S. user data has been repeatedly accessed from China. Keep in mind also, Pew found that 67% of teens use TikTok. In Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
You may be able to get your money back if you are one of the many FTX customers who took a loss in the crypto company collapse. An international group of trading customers has filed a class action lawsuit claiming top FTX executives stole their digital assets and purposefully blocked them from making withdrawals. The FTX founder and other former company execs now facing criminal charges, including fraud stemming from the company's collapse. Starbucks making big changes to its rewards program. Starting February 13th, you'll have to pay more to cash in on popular freebies every time, which will cost more stars, which is how the company refers to points. Right now, it costs members 50 stars, look right here, to get a hot tea, coffee, or bakery item, 150 stars for a latte, hot breakfast item, or a parfait, and 200 stars for a salad or lunch sandwich. After this change, it'll be 100 stars for tea, coffee, or baked goods, 200 for specialty drinks and breakfast items, and 300 for a lunch item. The company also saying that going forward, not all Starbucks locations will be able to participate in this program. That'll be all for us on the weekend edition of the National Desk, America's News Now. Don't forget, you can catch us live from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Just check your local listings. And you can also watch us online and catch up with the latest headlines on thenationaldesk.com. That'll be all for us. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a happy and healthy new year.